everyone. I'm thrilled to welcome you to the panel discussion for TestMu Conference 2025 on Enterprise AI Playbook, Strategies for Scaling AI in Quality Engineering. My name is Sumesh. I work as VP Sales Americas at Lambda Test, and happy to welcome you all. Before we start the panel, a quick reminder to our audience to share the learnings from this panel discussion on social media with hashtag TestMuConference. And don't forget to connect with our panelists. With us today, we have an incredible lineup of speakers, and I'm so excited to introduce our panelists to you. We have Dror Evlingi, head of Amdocs Data, GenAI Quality Engineering Studios, lead innovation in data and GenAI to transform how organizations utilize data for value. With over 25 years of quality engineering experience, Dror emphasizes the power of data in delivering impactful customer experiences and has been a driving force in GenAI adoption. Welcome, Dror.
Thank you.
We have Janki Raman Jayachandran, who is Global Head of Testing at Aspire Systems and is focused on integrating generative AI, test automation, and analytics to enhance test strategies. He has played a crucial role in scaling Aspire's testing practice, fostering a culture of innovation and ensuring enterprises adopt cutting-edge QA strategies. Welcome, Janki.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And then we have Keema Nanupreti, who is with us, who is managing director at Nagarro, leads the global strategy for the testing business unit with the focus on optimizing test delivery. He advocates for inclusivity, diversity, and sustainability with exploring emerging technologies like generative and agentic AI to shape the future of quality engineering. Welcome, Keema.
Thank you.
Right, and then we have Mobin Thomas, Global Head of Quality Engineering at USD, and brings over 22 years of experience in leading IT and business transformation with expertise in enterprise automation, quality engineering, and large-scale technology delivery. Mobin has been integral to USD's high-impact strategies. I welcome you, Mobin. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And last and not the least, we have Vikul Gupta, who is the CTO for Qualitest North America, recipient of the CEO Award for 24-25, and established the Next Gen Center of Excellence at Qualitest, advancing quality engineering standards with the focus on AI, smart DevOps, cloud, IoT in assurance, and digital assurance. Vikul's expertise in automation, tooling, and SAP implementation has been key transforming business practices for Fortune 500 companies. Welcome, Vikul.
Thanks.
Great. Well, I welcome you all, and here we start discussion. I can say that the era of AI experimentation is over. With adoption, now a daily practice of 97.5% roughly of companies, the conversation has shifted from if to how we scale. But moving from isolated code generation pilots to enterprise-wide impact requires a new playbook. This panel of tech leaders will share their battle-tested strategies for building a true AI foundation, discussing the architectural shift from siloed tools to integrated platforms. We'll dive into technical realities of rewiring the SDLC for predictive quality and designing robust human-in-the-loop systems that augment rather than replace expert judgment. This discussion promises to be backed with actionable insights that you can take back to your organization. Please join welcoming our panelists. Now, testing has always been people-intensive. Here's my first question, right? So with this, AI is shifting the balance between human judgment and machine-driven execution. So my question to all, what roles are relevant, transformed, or replaced with AI in the testing space, and how is the life of a tester transformed with AI? I think we'll start with Keema.
Sure. Thank you, Somesh. And maybe I'll take it one by one. I think in the replacement part, anything which is low complexity, which is rule-based, and also maybe which is repetitive is for sure going to be replaced. On the transformation part, I still believe and strongly believe that the world still needs a lot of testing, a lot of automation. But the way we approach for automation is for sure going to change. So the automation engineers are going to be transformed the way they do automation today and maybe also in coming years. And same goes for performance testing and maybe the other flavors of testing. And on the, let's say, the new and new roles that might come up, I see agentic AI and the AI agents coming up really, really fast. And we need quality engineering team with abilities, capabilities to validate these AI agents. So I think validation of AI agents and maybe also moderation of AI agents is probably going to be the new job opportunity. But that said, there is a wonderful report from World Economic Forum that basically highlights the overall job market across the world in next 5 years, and that's also very good source to go deeper into this. And on your second part, so is the transformation part. So, as I mentioned, that the monotonous work, the repetitive work is for sure going to go away. And I think, the fundamental job of a quality engineer is to basically find work, and everything else around it is just an enabler, be it any process, technology, AI, non-AI. So the quality engineers will probably be focusing more on finding non-obvious issues because their, let's say, simple, low complex things are taken away. They will probably be, getting more into critical and creative thinking and working more on the strategy side. So, and looking more into corner scenarios. So I think they will probably be transforming the way they work today and evolving from just a doer to someone who can really critically think and find non-obvious problems in the system. Thank you.
Thank you, Kima. What is your take, Chanki, on this?
Yeah, Samesh. I definitely agree to Tilman. But just to add to that, see, some of the roles that might completely get replaced, from what I have seen so far, is obviously the repetitive testing, right? Or what we call the run-of-the-mill kind of testing is going to be completely taken out. So those testers' roles are going to get replaced. A basic test script writing or basic test cases writing, like our speaker pointed earlier, is also going to get easily done by AI tools. So they are now capable of generating scripts in any language that is required. And added to that, there is also the any need for a test environment monitoring or maintenance. And now AI ops is kind of completely taking away that element of it. So these roles are kind of deeply impacted and obviously might get replaced. Uh, there are some roles which may not be completely taken out, right from test case designer, but then um, the way in which they approach, the way in which they kind of review, curate, and prioritize the test cases um, will be more focused on the higher end test cases. Similarly, test data management is another area we are seeing that AI can play a significant role in producing intelligent synthesized test data, anonymizing and taking care of sensitive information as well. Um, Script maintenance engineer, again, from a self-healing perspective, today we have capabilities to figure out what's the issue within a script and then try to fix it automatically, right? So that's another role that we feel is getting impacted. But to give a kind of summary, I think the overall expectation of testing and testers is that they move away from an executor to more of a strategist mindset and spend more time on designing smart test strategies, leveraging some of these AI capabilities, and just focus on high value testing. I think that's going to be the expectation from the market.
Lovely. Yeah, absolutely. Rod, what do you say on this point?
Yeah, I actually hold two paradigms here. I actually think that AI is not going to replace testers, but it's going to upgrade them. If I'm looking into three different roles that we see, the manual testers will become quality orchestrators across the life cycle. I think the automation engineers, and we start seeing that becoming very sophisticated prompt engineers that runs GenAI pipelines in a very smart way. And the estates of today will probably more into fine-tune LLMs and play with those continuously. At the same time, I think we're going to see a shift from writing scripts, and I agree with Jack. I agree about this. We're gonna see shift from writing scripts to running or controlling autonomous workflows as in the AI era. But I also want to add another paradigm. I'm sorry it's going to be at the beginning of the panel, but I actually think that in 2 years from today, and I had a huge fight with some of my colleagues about this. I'm a test engineer by heart, 25 years. The development of today are using co-pilots. They're using co-pilots to refactor the code. Basically, they are auditing the code that was generated by Copilot. Having said that, everybody becomes quality engineers in the future. Just a food for thought.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Mobin, I'll point to you.
So kind of extending Dror's aspect that he kind of brought out towards the end, right? So do you trust AI to test something which was generated by another AI, right? So that's kind of where we are right now, right? And with that, obviously there is focus on shifting towards better productivity measures, bringing in some of the levers that can bring in better quality in a time to market standpoint, right? So those are aspects that multiple organizations are kind of working on, but few things that will not change, right? For example, the human creativity aspect of it, right? And I know there was a session with James Buck, the whole exploratory testing aspect of things, right? So that never changes, right? So there is only certain elements that the AI can fill in, right? And therefore, the role is going to be more on how do I effectively use, for example, an agent ecosystem to bring in more efficiencies in the way we work, right? Or improve accuracy of what we test or completeness of the test that we do. So that is basically the philosophy in which I think a lot of rendering of these AI ecosystems will come in, right? With that, what does that mean to, for example, an SDET today who may, for example, have to reskill himself or herself to be more, um, more of an AI based engineer, right? Or it could be a quality data scientist, or it could be a test automation architect who may also be doing, for example, a performance engineering activity, because now you've simplified it using some of the agent ecosystems. So those are kind of considerations that we may want to have, right, as this whole ecosystem evolves. The second aspect is also looking at how much time are you spending on test execution versus defining a strategy for testing, right? So today it may be, let's say, 30% of the time on strategy versus 70% on execution. That may flip the other way, right? Because as you have more agents helping out with some of the tactical activities, more of the strategic thinking comes from the human, right? So that's kind of how I see this evolving. And I'm sure this is still early days, right? So the roles, etc., will fall in place as we progress.
Absolutely. I'll ask the question to Biko.
Yeah, it's always fun to be the last one to weigh in on a question when all the four speakers have spoken almost on every aspect of the question. But to me, I think AI, and specifically GenAI, democratize the adoption of AI. You don't need to be a data scientist to use GenAI. That's the way I see it. Now, it also helps us to move away from writing test scripts and finding defects. It helps us transform from QA to QE. Rather than writing test cases and assuring and finding defects, you can engineer quality from the get-go. Our world will get transformed from starting with test cases, but by the time test cases are there, requirements are already there. What about quality of requirements? So AI helps us validate requirements, fix requirements, create requirements, be a part of that SDLC much, much earlier. I was part of HP when automation came in and everyone said manual testing will go away. Today also you have manual testing. So I don't see the answer to be which roles will be replaced. what will be the relevance of roles? There'll still be manual testers, there'll still be automation testers, there'll still be TDM people, there'll still be TENS people. There'll be roles. The scale of each role will differ. If I can guarantee you one thing, if your role was taking meeting notes, that role is gone. That my team's co-pilot does a fabulous job. I don't depend on anyone to do meeting minutes. But there will be an aspect of manual testing. But before you do manual testing, the creation of test cases, test scenarios will be fully automated, will be fully driven by AI. We're doing that today. Now, when we move from manual to automation, new roles like SDLC came in. Mobin talked about that. And if you double clicked on SDLC, there were 4 or 5 things they need to know. Programming language was one of those. But to me, that SDLC role is getting transformed. Now, AI literacy. I don't expect my automation engineers to be AI experts. They need to understand that testing a traditional application, a claims application, a loan application, like where you put in 7, you get 15, you put it, how many times you put it, it's the same. It's deterministic output. There's a way to test that. But you go to shopping cart, Amazon shopping cart, morning you check, it is a different recommendation. And if your wife shares your same account, God knows what she's bought, the recommendation in the evening will be totally different. So it's non-deterministic output. How do you test that? Understanding the nitty-gritties of an AI-infused application and what it means from a testing perspective. What is testing for hallucination? What is so roles will change, they will evolve. We've already seen introduction of new roles like DSIT, which is Data Science Engineering Test. Every large engagement we are pitching to customers, we're injecting a DSIT in. Why? For GenAI, it's easy. But what if you are using machine learning algorithms which require fine-tuning and everything? You need a data scientist in test. So we see that happening. In the end, I tell a lot of my customers, AI will enable you to shift left in the true sense of word. You can shift as early as requirements, design, even code quality reviews, code merge reviews. We don't play in that space today. We leave it to the developers, but that's a quality issue. So that's what AI enables us to do. Suresh, back to you.
Thank you, Viko. This is a fabulous point. And I agree with the Amazon shopping cart point, Viko. I can see, what my wife is shopping on. Now, so now that with each wave of AI ML, Gen AI and now agentic has reshaped how enterprises think about skills, workflows, and value delivery. So, Viko, my question to you: how have testing teams evolved through the shift from ML to Gen AI to agentic, and how has it impacted the software testing system? This question for Viko, Mobin, and Rod. I'll start with Viko.
So I spent 16 years of my life, professional life, being an engineer, hardcore development. If you were to ask me how the development life has evolved in the last 20 years, big changes. The world from rational rows to the co-pilots, the latest tools of the world. I will tell you this, the world of testing has changed drastically in the last 2 years, 2 to 3 years, I would say. Where we were talking about creating codeless automation and scriptless automation and in-sprint automation, right? And people still struggle with it. Look at whether it was schema or whether it was Janki or whether it was drawer or whether everyone is talking about one thing. You can automatically create test cases, automatically create test scenarios, automatically create feature files, automatically create automation scripts, whether they are in Playwright or Selenium or if you use any of the commercial tools like even Lambda test or Tricentis or ExcelQ, they all give you the ability to auto-generate with the click of a button. So the world has changed. The other thing which when it was machine learning, it was about analyzing past data to predict the future, predict build failures, predict whether test prioritization is right or wrong, help with test consolidation, the old school machine learning. There, The adoption was low because you still needed a lot of data scientist knowledge to be able to play around with models and so on. Then came your GenAI. Everyone can just go to ChatGPT, put in a requirement and generate test cases, test scenarios. So everyone, right? College graduates, everyone. So that democratized and the adoption of AI in testing went through leaps and bounds. And today we are moving from Gen AI to Action AI or agentic AI, where you can explain your intent and it will automatically invoke the right agents to accomplish the task. I can simply go and say, for this new build, for these set of 10 user stories, make sure testing is complete. And my intent is broken down and then handed off to multiple MCP servers for functional testing, accessibility testing, performance testing, security testing, within automation, functional testing. Whether I want Selenium or Playwright is determined by the context of my request. So if you were to ask me, the transformation is month to weeks to days to minutes to seconds now. I was in a conference last week where I was able to show how we could go from one to end in 2.5 seconds. 2.5 seconds. I'll repeat that. Test generation, test creation, automation, test data, and execution. That is the world. That is the transformation for testing. Testing was considered slow. We are the fastest game in the market today. Mobin?
Yeah, I want to kind of also contrast this a little bit, right? So one, we still have customers who are on AS400 and mainframe, right? So there is that world which is still going to be a little slower, right? Yes, we will look at longer polls. How can we optimize it using AI, etc. But then, yes, especially on the digital side of the world, on the card side of the world, yes, things are much more faster, right, in terms of the evolution. And a lot of this is also to do with the certainty or the clarity that or accuracy that the agents bring in, right, or the ecosystem that we are trying to bring on board brings in, right? So how do you establish, for example, how accurate something is? And some of us are SIs here. Everybody has an agent, right? Now, how do you benchmark one agent against another, for example, right? And how do you make sure that, just like how, for example, 10 years earlier you used to do people interviews and determine, okay, is this person a right fit for your team, right? A similar exercise in a maybe more in a digital way you're kind of doing for the agents, right? So establishing that credentials of the agent, the accuracy of the agent, etc., is another important aspect. So while we have some of these legacy systems which are going to evolve, its ability to support these legacy systems, the context, a lot of which is undocumented, right? So how do you use AI in those contexts, right? So those are kind of things that the teams will have to think about, right, as you evolve. So the pace at which the adoption will happen will also vary on the stability of the application, the tech stack that we're talking about, etc. And then the other aspect is also looking at from individual teams, right? How do you adopt? So for example, I have a 14-year-old, what vegetables do you start with, right? Do you start with spinach and kale, or do you start with carrots, right? So starting with the smaller use cases, building on top of that, making sure that there is visibility, right? So those are important elements which kind of help with the transformation as well, right? While we may think about these roles evolving, etc., but the change management aspect of it, right? So those are some things that I want all of us to kind of think about while we talk about pace and the speed at which things are changing as well.
Right. Rod,
Yeah,
what do you think?
I'll keep it short just to allow more discussions. But look,
Sure.
in my mind, it's not about automation anymore. It's about how much you delegate to the AI. When you're looking into the implication on the teams, we used ML as a tool to do something. And then we use GenAI as a co-pilot. Basically, the way it's impacting the teams is that it's actually a non-organic colleague that joining the team. And now, as Vikul mentioned, we move into agentic experiences, which is basically autonomous teams. So the way it's impacting the life cycle itself is that we move from predictive or prediction of regression test cases or defect, bugging triage, all the way to automation of test cases. And now we are actually doing self-healing and self-certifying pipelines. So there is a big change there. I connect to what Mobin talked about previously. It's about the trust, but it's also about the delegation to AI and how much we delegate into AI. So there's a big impact on the teams. But again, think about the paradigms in the beginning that I mentioned.
Beautiful point. Yes. Well, thank you, Gerard, for your input. Now the enterprises no longer want fragmented tools, right? They want to consolidate everything. They want platforms that connect the dot across the entire life cycle with AI, at the core. How are you building integrated AI-powered platforms that unify the SDLC from test generation to execution and observability? Chanki, what do you think?
Sure, Shomesh. I think that's a very important term you used, the AI-powered platforms, right? Because it's very important. These AI tools are cohesively working together in a platform-based approach to yield the results, and that's when you apply on an SDLC, you get the best results of it. So one example, probably I'd like to highlight what we are trying to do is, like our earlier speaker, I think Vikul was mentioning about shifting left, right? So we are able to do it even further to the extent of trying to target legacy applications, right? So the biggest challenge for legacy applications is you don't have any documentation and nobody has the guts to test them because you don't know what's going to happen with that. So one of the things we are doing is to have a reverse engineering SDLC, AI powered uh, way, where we can start building requirements from the code directly, right? And from the requirements, being able to generate the test cases and have those test cases validated by the business users, which is much easier now. And starting from there, you are able to get into the test design part of it, and then you can think about the test data creation, the test environments that you need. The whole automation can be triggered from the test cases you have created, and to that extent, we can even go to API generation. So a lot of these things are now interconnected and going to all the way to the feedback loops so that we know if there is an issue that has been captured, then connecting it back to the test cases that got generated initially kind of closes the loop for us. So this is something that we see it working great from an SDLC perspective.
So, if I yeah.
Please, yes.
So 1.5 years back, we realized that there's a lot of AI solutions. This bot does this bot does this vendor does this vendor does that, then there's the Copilot. And then there's the Joule from SAP. There's so many interesting solutions coming together. But then none of them was mapping the complete life cycle of testing. So what we did was we built a platform called CoCo, co-pilots of co-pilots. The intent was to bring all of these external, internal partners, AI solutions together from a life cycle perspective. Now, what is a life cycle? There is the requirement validation, requirement fix, this test scenario creation, test, and then test cases generation. Then there's test optimization. You don't want to duplicate and similar tests. You want to consolidate them. Then you have test prioritization. Then you have test automation. Then you have test data. Then you have test execution. Then when you execute tests and fail, then you have defect triaging. And then the last part is customer feedback. How do you get defects when someone reports a problem? So sentimental analysis, customer journey maps. we were able to stitch all of these together in a life cycle way. So you can pull in requirements from Jira or Radio, validate them, fix them, and then click a button and automatically generate the test scenarios. Click a button, automatically generate test cases, and so on. One important thing in looking at all the questions in the chat window, I wanted to address what the other thing this and many other platforms do, the human in the loop. I've not met a single CIO, CTO I've worked with who says, let AI run on its own. No. So when the requirements are validated, we provide the input or a comment in Jira saying, this is missing, acceptance criteria is missing, the persona is missing, but we let the human take an action. When you create test scenarios, we show the output to an SME, let the SME, like Dror was saying, you still need SMEs from a testing standpoint. Humans are not going to be replaced. Humans are going to deliver things at scale. They can leave the mundane part to AI. Simple thing is automation, right? Like how much time it takes, let's say the normal productivity is one automation script a day. Now you can generate 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. And you're spending most of the human aspect in validating, fixing any of the stuff which needs to be done from an automation script or so on. So that's where the platforms are headed. And the beauty of similar platforms is you are able to see traceability because it handles a complete life cycle. This requirement to this test scenario, to this test case, to this feature file, to this automation script, to this defect, and to this customer feedback. And if you have this traceability, newer use cases like change impact based testing will appear. Because you know which requirement, to which test case, to which automation, to which feature file. Now when build number n+1 comes, you are able to say, okay, these 5 requirements have changed. What are the impacted test scenarios, test cases, feature files, and automation scripts? This is just an example, right? This is why these integrated systems are important. And the other important part is the ability to integrate with ALM tools. This is very, very important. They need to be, you don't need to log into the platform. It should be part of your pipeline. Invocation should be headless. So that's how we are approaching some of these integrated platform creations standpoint.
Lovely. No,
I
absolutely.
just
So
if I can just tip in
sure.
and strengthening Vikul's point, because I think there is a very major point that you need to emphasize. We don't create point solutions. Today, we're talking about cognitive platforms for quality engineering. You need to think about the neural fabric. You know, we did it with the brain, but you think about the brain, you think about all the neural connections that you have in testing, and you connect those into workflows, and you put it into a framework that uses GenAI. It's a neural fabric. That's just you strengthening the messaging. Thank you, Vikul,
No,
for that.
that's beautiful. Thank you, George, for jumping in. So I'll change the direction a little bit. Near future, they will define winners and laggards. Anticipating which AI-driven testing capabilities will dominate, is critical today. To Kima, you and Janki, which AI-driven QE capabilities will be foundational in the next 12, 24 months, and how are you preparing for them as of now?
Sure. So, I think there are multiple dimensions to it, Somesh. As far as the capability built up is concerned, I see it, I think, under 3 broad categories, to be honest, and that is how we are also trying to, work in this very broad area. One is the development of engineering services or the transformation or changes in the engineering services, the way we deliver quality engineering services today. I think everybody is talking about autonomous test case generation, execution, self-healing, reporting, data generation, environment provisioning. So all of that is part, from my point of view, it is part of one broader umbrella, which is engineering services, which is, of course, is going to be a new area of capability development, and that's where we all have to focus. The second area, which is also very, very important, is the platform services, AI-based platform services. And I think in general, the industry is probably going to be headed in that direction also. No enterprise wants to reinvent the wheel, but maybe use the platforms, proven platforms that are helping the organizations go faster in this journey. So in that direction also, I sense there will be more capability development. And as far as we are concerned, as a group Nagarro is concerned, we know that we have to reskill our people. So they are learning these tools. They are learning tools that are helping them, not just empowering them to deliver faster, from being AI assisted to maybe, let's say, AI augmented, and there are so many different terms. But idea is that they are going to use these tools for faster value creation and for basically deliver more value to customers in a shorter period of time. That said, there is also a threat perception to AI. Why most of the quality engineers feel that as if the AI will probably impact their jobs, etc. But I think while we talk about capability development, there is also probably a need of reframing the quality engineering identity in terms of how they should transform themselves and their skills. I think that is also going.
Absolutely.
Also trying to bring in that cultural. I think this reframing is very, very important. Reshaping the way quality engineers see themselves.
Thank you, Ķe𝐫𝐸. Janki, what do you think about it?
Yeah, just to add to what you mentioned, I think one of the other areas we are also focusing is to build more of conversational QE assistance. Because there are also a lot of places where people are requiring more of assistance than a specific direction-based thing. So that's an area that could really help accelerate their productivity, like the likes of copilots. So basically, a copilot for testing sort of a thing. Then, of course, there are test agents that are getting focused now in terms of building more and more micro vertical based test agents as well, so that it knows the domain and the background of the context on which it's being able to do the testing. And one more area is the observability driven QE, right? Being able to link the telemetry information and then connecting it back to the quality engineering outcomes of it, right? More of like a continuous feedback loop. That's another area we are also focusing on strengthening. But overall, like you mentioned, I think from a preparation perspective, it's very important to take a holistic platform-based approach by the organizations, and more importantly, back up the ROI, then being able to justify the results of what we are trying to accomplish. So that's going to be important to sustain this initiative. That's what we are trying to focus.
Great to hear that. Thank you so much, Janki. Now, I mean, I have seen, and I'm 100% confident you guys have seen, many enterprises show early success with POCs. But moving from moving AI into enterprise-wide production environment is still elusive. So my question to you all, right? Every organization succeeds at AI pilots, but struggles with scale. What are the biggest obstacles enterprises need to overcome to achieve this scale? Ķe𝐫𝐸, I'll start with you.
Sure. I think it's a very interesting question, and we probably need to understand the trigger for AI. And this is my view that the AI is typically a board level topic, and the trigger for implementing AI at scale many times comes from the board, or at least comes from the senior management. Now, every top-down approach will have its own advantages, but also probably will have its disadvantages.
Right.
So while board would want it to implement for scale, but maybe the organization is not ready for it. Maybe they don't have right infra to implement AI at scale, so the infra becomes a very big problem. So while there is a push, I was just reading a wonderful article which said that maybe around just 15 to 20% organizations across the globe carry the right level of infra to utilize the full potential of AI. So now because of this push, they do some POCs, but the infra becomes one major block. I think blocker for the large scale implementation. So the other aspect, which is also, and this is my practical experience, is related to human psychology, and we are talking about human centricity quite a lot here. Every technology, whichever gets developed across the globe, has to keep human at its center because it is created for humans. So, of course, human centricity is very, very important. Now, in this case also, human psychology in general, if it is a top-down approach, is going to be discouraged. They would probably want to minimize the risk of large-scale implementation. And that is why we see small POCs popping up here and there. And you will generally notice that these POCs are being done in the areas which are not super duper critical for business. The initial systems are these systems which are probably less critical for day-to-day business. If something fails, the risk is lesser. And then gradually the adoption is gradual. So what I'm seeing while working with at least my customers is that the corporate strategy or the broad level strategy is talking about implementation at scale, but the ground adoption is gradual. And of course, as I mentioned, infra is one issue. The human psychology is another issue. The perception that AI carries is another issue. So there are, I think, multiple things that revolve around this.
Beautiful. Real quick, Janki, what do you?
Sure, I think this is a prevalent problem. In fact, Gartner, in one of the recent reports, have said that almost one third of the projects that are going now will be kind of discarded as POCs because they don't know what it's coming out of it, right? So I think the key challenges that's resulting in this scenario is one, pilots are very easy to do because they use very clean and curated data, right? Data becomes the heart of everything when it comes to AI. Now, when it comes to real production environment, we know the data are huge and they live in silos in multiple places. So bringing them together becomes a big challenge. So while the POC might look shiny, nicely working, but when it comes to moving into real world, it kind of fails there. The second is the cost involved, the model training and the infra costs associated to that. So many times people kind of underestimate that part of it. So that's where the ROI driven use cases have to be carefully handpicked, and then has to be measured if that value is being yielded from what they're trying to accomplish. The other problem I see is also from a compliance perspective, and regulatory related aspects. So pilots are generally not scrutinized much, but then when it comes to again production scenarios, there is a lot of things that it needs to pass through, and that's another area where things start kind of getting dropped. Overall, I think it's very important for the organizations to have a very clear value-driven roadmap with KPIs, so that they are able to evaluate these POCs in a careful way and then take them to production for yielding the right benefits.
Thank you.
Sumesh, if I can weigh in
Sure.
on this one,
Sure.
there are 5 questions which are relevant for moving from POC to an actual implementation. We deal with this very often. First is, where do you
Quite
use AI?
obvious.
Kima talked about Gartner. Gartner has actually published a 4-quadrant matrix.
Right. The magic
And
one.
their recommendation is the top right, which is more of ROI, business value. If you invest in that, your chances of from POC to actual implementation are much higher. If you focus on internal facing applications, the chances of POC to implementation are going to be lower. So first is, where do I use AI? Second is, which AI? Azure versus AWS versus Olama versus this or versus that. That selection becomes a critical thing. So companies which already are with one of the other hyperscaler, that question is easier, because if you're in Azure shop, getting Azure OpenAI access is very, very quick and easy. Then the second question is the how part. How do I implement AI? What happens to my what happens to my data? Will data leave? What will be used to train? What happens to data, and so on. And the fourth question is what if? This is where the compliance, the security, the architecture teams come in. What used to take 1 month is taking us 6 months to get approval to move forward, because half the time I feel they don't have a full understanding, the AI office, the architecture office, the security office. So they come up with ChatGPT generated stuff which will make it impossible for anyone to get through. So a lot of time it is not about answering, it is about education. And where they're able to listen and get educated and move forward, we are able to succeed. And the last question is who? Who is going to take this forward, right? The ownership of this AI infused application. So the executive sponsor, the team responsible, the vendor responsible. So to me, a combination of these five, where, which one, how, what if, and who are important.
It has to be organized pretty well for implementation.
I-
Rod, what do you think?
I-
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna take what Mobin mentioned 20 minutes ago. In my mind, you don't scale AI with tools, you scale AI with trust. I'm going to oversimplifying this. At the end, and Vikul mentioned about in my mind, the fifth question is the first one, because you cannot scale AI. Pilots are very good in labs and in sandboxes because they are pilots. When you need to scale, you need it to work in production. At the end of the day, in my mind, and Janki also was talking about this, there are three main elements that you need to scale AI. All of them interconnected. Again, fabric, neural fabric, governance, integration, and trust. You need to have a transparent outcomes of the AI so the teams will trust it. You need to use AI as a platform, not just tools sprawls, because if you don't integrate to the right sources of data through the platform, it's just going to be all over the place. And the last and very important one is that it's all connected, because the trust of the people is how you scale this. I want to give an example from the testing world. We took a test design, which is very standard operating procedure, a test design. You start with a very simple test design through an assisted AI. You put it into a chat, you ask questions, you load the document, you get answers. Once you increase the level of trust in the answers, very transparent, you can release the autonomy to that to go into an augmented workflow, which is an augmented AI. And now you have a test case design that allows the human in the loop to make a decision if they want to add something to the design. But now it's an augmented workflow. Once you increase that trust, you can release that autonomy to an agent who knows to do design as an architect on its own. But you can't go from assisted AI to agents without having the trust embedded. So
Right.
you scale AI with trust, not with tools.
And so
Mobin.
maybe one quick view on
Please,
that,
yes.
right? Maybe another dimension. So we went almost a year and a half back, right? We started this whole centralized QE platform. We had our own, we kind of brought in a lot of AI elements into what was already an existing end-to-end quality engineering platform called QE 360. One thing we realized, some of the use cases. So for example, if you look at user story validation as an example, right? The BAs were not used to coming into a testing tool, right? And they were not able to fathom that, yes, they have to now come into a new tool, get their user story certified, and then go back, right? So how do you get some of these use cases embedded into the tool that they're used to? So for example, BAs using Jira as a tool of choice. We brought in this plugin, so now it is integrated into Jira, right, and not a part of some tool ecosystem which they're not used to, and therefore the adoption became a lot more faster, right? So it sometimes is also about getting closer to the end user, and where does the value lie, right? Like what tools ecosystems are they used to, and how can you bring that integrated or inclusive kind of AI adoption. So that is one aspect, and the second aspect is and I talked about this earlier as well, the whole legacy baggage that a lot of customers carry, right? So yes, we may be able to prove a lot of these things in the digital footprint, on the data ecosystem, etc. But then as you start looking at broader use cases, right, and that is where the struggle is, right, often. So yeah, I know a lot of the other points were covered, so just wanted to bring these two dimensions in.
So already the end, there are a lot of discussions need to be done, but we have a lot of questions actually coming up, on our chat. I want to address those. The first question is, what is the biggest challenge enterprise face when trying to scale AI in quality engineering? Feel free to jump in.
I think infra is one for sure. And when we try to scale AI, we also need to understand that do we have skills for that scale? So we may create, for example, a strategy that may be planning to cover entire enterprise, but then we need the right people and right skills for that scale. I think that's also important. And these become the skill and infra become one of the big challenge. The third one probably is also, as I mentioned, is more related to the human psychology, where colleagues might think that if the AI gets implemented at scale, they are at risk. So this reshaping or reframing of quality engineering role and setting the right context and tone and culture for it is also very, very important. Otherwise, it will be really, really challenging. If the teams are not convinced, the implementation will be.
Right.
Yeah, I think the friction, if you kind of look at it from two dimensions. One is a lot of these teams who are certifying what LLM to use, etc., within different tool or enterprises, they are also learning, right? So the AI adoption, while it is not just a QA only problem, but dev plus QA and everywhere else, I don't think there is like a standard ITIL kind of a process in place, and therefore the struggle is always, what is the right methodology, what is the right LLM, what is the right tool set, process, right, and what kind of data is going in. So the explainability of what goes in, the regulatory compliance aspects of it is usually the bigger, long pole in this, right? While we may be able to do like POCs, when we try to scale it, that is when these challenges come on board as well.
Right. Considering the time, I have sure.
Sure.
To borrow what Mobin used, trust. That's number one. Second, many people, like in the world of automation, they had manual test cases. They just automated them blindly without worrying about whether they are the right manual test cases. Are they outdated? Similarly, I feel that if you don't modify your processes, you will end up scaling the problem at a much higher level because AI is for scale. So we are definitely telling people that before you automate, before you bring in AI to automate, you need to optimize your test sets, remove duplicates, remove test cases which are not even relevant. That is two. Third is just because of the trust. That's one aspect. The other part is the skill set. So the AI literacy is a major issue. I'm working with some customers where AI is a prime direction given by the CIO, but people don't even understand the difference between traditional versus Gen AI. So if they don't understand, they won't appreciate, right? So that's the issue. And AI is not about just saving cost. AI is about scale. So that's another thing from a customer standpoint. We see a struggle because if you look at AI, it's costly in the beginning. Only when it is at scale does it start bringing in efficiencies and cost gains and so on.
Lovely. So I have, considering the time, I have one more question that I want to show, which is this one. What's the most essential yet overlooked strategy for scaling AI that organizations often mishandle when moving past the pilot phase? Draw. I'll point to you.
Yeah, let me say the following. First of all, people are underestimating the culture of organization. In my mind, culture eats AI for breakfast. If the team doesn't trust it, they won't use it. That's number one. The strategy that needs to be taken to scale AI is not about moving from manual to automation. It's about moving from automation to autonomy. If you interpret that in a wrong way, you will not be able to move beyond the pilot. Let me say that again, because it's important. Moving from, it's not about from manual to automation, because manual to automation is something that we did in the past. And so, by the way, sometimes we fail. It's about moving from automation to autonomy. And what does it mean to go there? And I think that's an excellent question by Jensi. Thank you very much. It's a very important paradigm also to have.
Thank you, Lord. Chunky.
Sumesh, data is another important part people overlook. They focus too much on which model, which LLM, but they forget that if you don't have the right data, the best models will fail.
Right.
I
We've
remember
got rules too.
I had built a triage bot which saved $9 million for a very, very large telecom provider in the US. I took the same model to one of the largest retailer in Canada, and it bombed. And the reason is it was a triage bot, and most of their defects had null or not applicable in the resolution field.
Wow.
Now, if the underlying data itself is so crap, AI will not do any wonders. So
Yeah.
I always tell people, data is the most essential part for AI success. And unfortunately, that is the most overlooked part in the overall strategy. People worry about the AI aspect of it, the tooling aspect of it, without worrying about the data. And that is why most POCs fail also.
Right. Quickly, I move this to Janki. Last input from you, Janki.
Sure. I was going to say the same. The data fragmentation, like I was mentioning earlier, is a big, big area people tend to miss out. But the second equally most important area is also to have the right frameworks and governance in place, taking care of the responsible AI or from an auditing perspective, from a compliance perspective. I think these are all very important when it comes to an enterprise level rollout of AI adoption. These play a vital role in the success of the overall AI solutions.
Great. Well, thank you so much. That's a wrap for today. I think we wanted to dive more into this, but I can respect the time. It was a fantastic session. Massive thank you to our panelists for sharing such valuable insights, and to all of you who are actively participate in this. Thanks for the questions that you asked. Let's continue the conversation on social media. Don't forget to tag us and share the learnings of TestMu conference. We will post these recordings of these sessions on YouTube. Go there if you missed out. Check it out. If you want to kind of save these for your later part, go ahead and subscribe to YouTube channel. Till then, enjoy the rest of TestMu conference 2025. See you in the next session. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Thanks
you for
everyone
having
for
us.
joining.